Welcome to this very special edition of the KAJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts either through their industry insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have Colin A. Borden. He is an actor, comedian, director, and content creator. Welcome to the show, Colin.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me, AJ.
You are welcome. Welcome to the show, Colin. Welcome to India in this online form. And I'm sure not just in India, but a lot of people across the globe will benefit from what we are going to talk right now. We'll be discussing about learning about the secrets to creating engaging family content. We'll learn all this from Colin. So before we come to this, let's understand a bit about your journey, your background, Colin, so that people know who they are listening to and can learn from your journey itself.
Great. I'm chiefly an actor. I started acting when I was in about 8 years old or so, third grade, and started professionally acting shortly after that in the city of Philadelphia. Moved to New Mexico and here in the United States and studied film there, and then moved to Los Angeles, Hollywood, to pursue a career in the movies and entertainment writ large, where I've been acting stage and screen, some animation, some voiceover stuff. I've been directing for stage and screen. My wife, who produces our current show with me, is also a director and producer out here. Yeah, we've got, I think we've got some bona fides here. Um, but our current show, the Get Up Show, is I think directly tied to what we're going to talk about today. It's a show for kids and families, an audio podcast, and through that we're doing all the writing and directing and acting and editing and all that kind of stuff. It's been a very homegrown, holistic kind of show.
Absolutely. Homegrown, holistic kind of show. So tell us a bit about you have your most well known for your leading roles in just shy of 100 episodes of the hit viral show Dhar Man. Tell us a bit about that. Then we'll come to this kids podcast.
Yeah, you got it. Darman it's a YouTube channel, and a human being, a man named Darman, and they have I kind of call them a kitchen sink soap opera. It's every episode is sort of an individual story. They're not really connected by any continuity, but each one's sort of geared toward teaching a moralistic lesson. Never judge a book by its cover. Observations about things like that. And I got involved in the show just as a jobbing actor. I auditioned for a part. I booked the part, and I was kind of off and running. When I auditioned for it, I didn't realize it was part of a series at the time. They were really just on Facebook. People just sharing the videos on Facebook every now and then. And shortly after I joined, they moved over to YouTube, and it really blew up, especially I think because of the pandemic. People just sort of looking for nice, good messages, good things, happy people. They're designed to be very black and white. The bad guys are bad, the good guys are good. The bad guys always get their comeuppance in the end, and everybody kind of learns a lesson. So I think that was really comforting to people, especially during lockdown and in the pandemic era. And it blew up. So yeah, through that show, I got myself a little bit of a social following, and I get to meet people out here in the world and take photographs with folks, and it's a really lovely experience.
Absolutely. Social following, over 2 million, followers on TikTok and counting. That's not a little bit of social following. That's a whole lot of
Yeah,
social following. What do you do with this social following? I want to understand as an actor, how should people utilize the amount of social following? Is it the same like it is with other actors in India? I see some of these people, using their social media handles? How do you use your social following?
Well, personally, I just use mine really just to kind of connect to people. I've done a few influencer type ads, but I'm not particularly interested in being a quote unquote influencer. I like acting. I like going on and sharing my story and kind of what's going on in my life and funny jokes and stuff like that, especially on TikTok. I go on TikTok live every now and then, just to kind of chat with people. As far as the business side of it goes, for an actor, it's helpful certainly to have a good social following, and depending on what quote unquote level you're at. Um, but I've lots of casting directors, lots of producers. They'll tell you that at the end of the day, they want to hire the person who's going to be best for the job. Your social following will be lower on the list of important things for them to consider. In a commercial, it's probably going to be a little bit better already having that face recognition, that audience, and that maybe you'll also put, that you'll put that commercial up and people will buy the product. People care about that a little bit more. But in terms of like straight up just being an actor, a narrative actor, I have found that it's just not as important to people as we might assume.
Right, right. Now let's come to this, the Get Up show. Tell us a bit about this. It's you know what unique challenges have come up with producing, a variety podcast for kids and families. Tell us, so that a lot of people want to get into this sort of a genre, but are it's not an easy. It may sound like a bit of a easy thing for some, but it is not an easy thing, especially to for producing content for kids and families in days like this. So tell us a bit in detail about all this, and especially about your show, the Get Up Show.
Sure. The Get Up Show is it's a morning variety program for kids designed to help wake them up. So every episode kind of roughly follows the same structure. We start off with a quiet little "Hey, good morning," play a little nice gentle music, and then things sort of start to get louder and sillier. If your audience maybe knows the Muppet Show, uh, or just kind of classic, here every Saturday morning in the 90s, kids sat down and watched cartoons over and over again, and they were loud and silly. And we're kind of calling back to all those sorts of things: the loud, the silly, the breakfast cereal of our youths is kind of being poured into this show with with an eye toward mindfulness. Every episode, we have a little yoga routine, and we have a moment to kind of connect to your brain, to your body, and all that kind of stuff. Every couple episodes, we'll do something that's more specifically what we call infotainment. We have a running segment called the History Phone, where we get on the line and talk to somebody from history. We've talked to Bessie Coleman, who was the first Black American female pilot. We've spoken to Ching Shi, who was the most notorious pirate in history. We've spoken to William Shakespeare. We've got Nikola Tesla and Thomas Edison coming up in a future episode. So, just trying to connect a little bit of the breakfast cereal silliness to some education. The fact is, kids have a really big day. I think as adults, we sometimes get a little jaded and we say, like, oh, come on, your life isn't hard. What do you do? You go to school? And the fact is, it is really hard. School is long, and there are social issues that they have to deal with, and they do not control their schedule. They're being told what to do all day, every day. They have to think and use their imagination and try and raise to these standards, and it's a really long day. And then they're kind of nutrition isn't great maybe for some kids, and so it's really hard. So what we're kind of trying to do is provide in the morning a breath of air, a moment to for the kids to be with themselves. You can slowly wake up. We got a little gentle music for you. Slowly take your time to get there. We do a little stretching and then laugh and turn your brain off, eat your cereal, and have that moment to yourself, to be a kid before the big day begins. Um, and that was sort of our goal. Now the making of it, uh, it's about a 40-minute program, from gentle wake up to silliness, and doing that once a week is like a crazy amount of work. Again, it's really just my wife and I. We have another partner. His name is Matt Zambrano. He's a great. He's a podcaster. He's also likewise an actor, a writer, a producer, a director. He was just had in a show in the Edinburgh Fringe. He just came back from that, and he writes a few segments for us. He acts in a specialized segment where we give a weather report, a daily weather report, unlike anything you've ever heard. You got to hear it. So it's really just us putting this thing together. We bring in actors, but I do all the editing. We do the directing. We do all the writing, and every week a 40-minute program is crazy. It's really, it's not, I wouldn't exactly recommend it. It's been really heartwarming for us. It's really fun, but it puts me, I really, I work about 6 days a week at this point. I take Monday off for myself to kind of sleep in the morning. But other than that, Sunday nights I'm up till like 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning, putting all the finishing touches on this show. So it's a lot of work.
Absolutely, lots of work. So how do you talk about the joy of creating entertainment? So in this part of the show, is it a lot of joy while creating, or is it only others are having that whole happiness and entertainment? What about
It's
you?
it's huge. It's huge joy. Um, the this show in particular is really, it's close to our hearts. We have two kids, and this was the sort of thing that we wanted to have for them in the morning. There are a lot of really great, wonderful kids podcasts, but nothing that does this. And when we go in there in the morning and it's time to wake them up and turn on a light and turn on something for them to listen to, um, we wanted to have this. So already we're kind of making that show that we wanted to make. And then if you were to like crack open my brain and just kind of squeeze it out, you'd have this show. Like we can do whatever we want with it. I can, if I record a line that I don't really love when I'm editing it, I just turn around and I re-record it. It's the precision, the from thought to completion in 6 days is so creatively fulfilling. And yeah, it requires a lot of thought and work and imagination and trial and error. Yes, but that act of building something and seeing it or hearing it right in front of you when it is all done is so joyful. And we're making comedy, so you get to be silly the whole time. What would a, a silo full of popcorn exploding sound like? We get to create that. It's just fun.
Right. And when you talk of podcasts, uh, Colin, how do you monetize? Or is it because it's coming from you, you are able to, monetize it? Or is it the struggles the same with you like other podcasters? I want to understand that from you,
It
especially when you are into this sort of a genre.
Well, we're still, frankly, we're halfway into our second season, and we are still trying to sort out monetization. We pitched to a couple networks. We've gone out to some advertisers. We're making merch, and our numbers for podcast numbers are really good. But when we initially spoke with sort of one of our podcast buddies, they said, a network wants to take it from soup to nuts. They want kind of a rough pitch, and then they'll build the program with you. And the fact that we kind of had everything already sort of laid out and designed, and several episodes recorded before we even started releasing, has been a little intimidating for some of these networks. So if you were to start your own show, it might be good to try to do that, to start at the very ground level and go out to a network first. Um, but you know, podcasting and everything, creativity, entertainment. I loathe the word content, but we can use it here. Content is so democratized now, that anybody can make anything. Uh, you want it to be good, certainly. You want it to have a certain amount of production value, kind of whatever you're putting out. You look at like a TikTok that goes viral. Um, Even the ones that seem very simplistic have a nice amount of picture quality and sound quality. You still people still have a standard to which they hold things, but you can just make. It's a wonderful world that we live in right now, where anybody living anywhere has almost guaranteed a marvelous camera and sound device in their pocket at all times. And if you have a creative concept, if you have an imagination, you can make something that other people can enjoy. And that's incredible. And monetizing comes later when you've sort of proven that this thing works well over time. Um, but yeah, if you want to start there with the concept of just monetizing, it might be a harder journey for you, and you might not ever get to make that thing, because the people with the money are generally spooked and scared and imaginative and creative, yes, but uh, they'd much rather grab that sure thing. And yeah, if you wait for that sure thing, it probably won't ever happen.
Right, right. But one challenge could be, if you are producing a show like this, and along with your family, your wife, you are producing it, and so how do you balance everything? A kid show, how do you family balance it all together and produce, things, especially a comedy show. In the backdrop, there are so many balances that you have to bring. How have you been able to do this?
Well, my wife and I have been working together for a very long time. We've been making movies and theater together for a long time. So we have developed a good working relationship as well as a good marriage, and we can kind of turn those little parts of our brains off. When it's time to go out on a date, we go out on a date. When we're sitting around here at 10 o'clock in the morning and we're at work, we're at work. And any argument or creative argument or whatever that comes up is the work argument. And so we've kind of already organically kind of worked out that balance. And our kids are on the show every now and then too. They appear. They're constantly giving us ideas, either direct pitches to us or just by being silly, goofy kids and saying funny things at the dinner table, or having funny ideas while they're playing that we're just sort of sponging up and listening to. So it is, the balance is a really great question. I don't know if it's totally perfectly balanced, but we are, embarrassingly enough, a showbiz family, and always have been, and very likely always will be. And so it's just sort of our everyday is kind of consumed by some amount of creativity and some amount of household business, and that's just sort of how we live.
Wonderful. But as you said, we have each one have a device today in our pockets, and every time you can create content, either in terms of to share with people, or even in for the social media. So how do you separate that part? Or sometimes we have to just embrace the whatever creative work we do, we should embrace it wholeheartedly and keep on whatever boundaries it is possible, but do not be too hung up on that.
Yeah, I think, yes, I think that's the gag. Um, make for yourself, um, audience, money, those things will follow. Sometimes in the making, you have to put it in front of the right people, and you do have to kind of still sell it a little bit. But if you make with your heart and you make with good intention, it will rise. As far as you know, knowing what to put on social media and knowing what to just send to your goofball friends or like just tell your mom on the phone or whatever, um, that's probably got to be. Like I said, our kids are on the show, but it's an audio only format, and I do have a rather large following on social media, so I don't post photographs of my children, of my home. That's not what I want to present to the world. I want them to live their own lives. I want them to have, and my wife and I, we want them to have a childhood, and it's everybody that comes up to me to ask for a photograph, exceptionally nice, exceptionally cool, awesome people. I've never once had a weird or bad instance, but my kids are short and people are tall and I am tall, and they have no problem about just pushing my kid out of the way and saying, "Hey, can I get a photograph with you?" And my kids seeing that, they understand that the what comes with being a presence, um, takes when you give yourself over to the public will take it. And I think that they are definitely seeing that. And I think that they're going to have a different sort of perspective on social media as well. And most kids probably growing up right now, seeing the way that their parents interact with it, seeing the way with their older siblings interact with it. Social media is going to continue to evolve, and people are going to be less. Um, Here's my life. Here's what I had for breakfast. It is probably going to become much more um, uh, uh, curated, as to what I do want to share with everybody versus what I'll just call my mom and tell her about, or tell my friends around the lunch table or whatever, because the world is big and everybody having access to everything is uncomfortable. So knowing that anything you put out there, even if you delete it, somebody saw it and maybe somebody saved it on their own situation somewhere. Knowing that will influence how you want to be seen in the world, and maybe it takes trial and error for you, but putting everything out there is not a great idea. You want to have secrets, you want to have stuff that is just for you, just for your family. Goofy images that you just text to your family chain, you want that, you want to keep that, you want to maintain that. That keeps you sane.
Absolutely, that keeps you sane. But in terms of comedy, and even if it's for kids' entertainment or anyone else's entertainment, do you think nowadays that whole ground for experimenting has, you know, become much more constrained or confined with, because so much of our lives, people can take offense to anything that you can create comedy on.
Yeah.
Political atmosphere has also, become different. What used to be comedy, say, 10 years before, today it can offend anyone. And they can just, without your knowing, they can just go to social media, anywhere they can just watch. A lot of this cancel culture and all these things have come up. How do you deal with it when you are dealing, creating entertainment, especially for, kids and other things?
Yeah, it is, it's an evolving conversation for sure. It's in some ways it's great that there are some things that we're not joking about anymore because they were really easy targets, and yeah, frankly, it did really hurt a lot of people. There are some folks out there in the world who desire to be offended, and their form of putting themselves out there is to uh, comment on other people's things, and and raise flags where flags ought not to be raised. But those people are a smaller subset of folks. Um, in terms of how we kind of approach things, uh, we are mindful certainly of trying not to step too far into other cultural, societal pockets. I guess could be a good way of trying to phrase that. We don't want to push any boundaries per se in terms of large conversations, but there are things that are just funny that will always be funny, and things that are designed to single out an individual, a group of individuals. We don't necessarily need them. There are some groups maybe that are older and have tougher skin, and we can, you know, make fun of them all we want. Um, but I've just been finding, especially now we're 20 something episodes into this show. Um, you don't need to punch down. You don't need to go for the obvious joke, making fun of a person. It just is. It's easy and it's quick and it's fast. And yes, when if you're writing on a sitcom or something like that in the 1990s, and you need to turn out 24 episodes a season, and you need to make sure those laughs are cranking way up high. Yeah, you're gonna definitely go for easy jokes, absolutely. But it's almost more fun now. To mine comedy from everything. On our show, we find comedy in everything. It's not just of groups that might be able to be offended.
Absolutely, absolutely. Comedy in everything. What about the difficult times? As an entertainer, you can have a lot of good times, but then there will be a lot of not so good times, very slow times. Then on those moments, how do these, entertainers motivate themselves? Is it so easy? Is it very difficult? How do you deal with those times?
It's a both, I think. Um, you know, the, yes, the being a freelance entertainer, artist, what have you, you are constantly hustling. You're constantly looking for the job, and you're constantly receiving rejection and/or no answer whatsoever. Um, which is sometimes almost worse than rejection, especially right now. Actors, we're mostly auditioning through a self tape. So I'm here. I sit here in front of this blue wall in my office, and I perform for nothing and nobody, and I send that out, and I don't even get like a thanks for coming in kind of reply. So it is it's becomes kind of lonely and isolating, pursuing a freelance career. And it is definitely full of, even Tom Cruise goes through periods where the phone isn't ringing as much as he wants it to. And in those periods, yeah, it's absolutely about just kind of connecting to yourself, honoring what you've done so far, looking to the future, knowing your own fortitude, and that this is a path that you've chosen intentionally. It's not something you should think about lightly, and hopefully you didn't. And that's why you're sitting here thinking, why the heck isn't the phone ringing? Why didn't I become an accountant? I didn't become an accountant because I have this thing that I want to share. I have this craft that I want to pursue. So kind of honoring that for yourself. And then it is about turning around and, yeah, making your own stuff, and creating the thing that will excite people, that will say like, hey, I didn't know you could do that. You want to come do it for me? Um, but you get to be, I think you get to be a little depressed every now and then. I think that's totally fine and human, and you get to hang out in bed and pull the covers up over your head for an afternoon. That's totally fine.
Absolutely. So what next now after the Get Up show?
What after the Get Up show? Oh, this thing's gonna go for years. What's next is golly, the next best thing that I can get my grubby little hands on. We've got a play coming up um, in November. That's going to be really exciting. It's about the Prince Harry and Prince William's children meeting 30 years on, and sort of what an American and a Brit, and they're both sort of one guy is very much in line for the kingship, the other guy's kind of tangentially connected to the royals, and what's going to happen. So that's going to be cool. Written by our buddy Jessa Larkin Boutte. Um, look for that, and then yeah, movies, baby. We're getting movies going. Um, other than that, auditioning, I'm available.
Absolutely. There is so much to learn from you, so much to, learn about you. And I'm sure a lot of people would want to learn from you, learn about you, learn about the Get Up Show, want to watch this. And, so I want to understand for them what's the best way for them to connect with you. And what about, have you ever thought about, Bollywood and all those things? Maybe somebody gets in touch with you. It's a huge industry in this part of the world.
Yeah, yeah. Let me know. Yeah, I'm interested. um, how can people get a hold of me? The best ways: social media, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, all at Colin A. Borden. And the Get Up Show is available on all your preferred podcast platforms. Check it out. Check it out.
Wonderful. With this, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KAJ Masterclass Live. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.
Thanks very much for having me.